Hello everybody. I'm going to be reviewing a few more albums that I've listened to. I think the best course of action for me is to review certain albums that I've listened to a lot over the years, and probably even more albums that I listened to when I was a kid, like albums from childhood. And there was one album that I did listen to a lot when I was a kid, and that was Rudebox by Robbie Williams, released in I think it was August 2006. Now, I was pretty familiar with Robbie Williams growing up. I did listen to a lot of his songs, his hit songs that came out on the radio. Songs like Rock DJ, Sin Sin Sin, Angel, Better Man, things like that. But I remember, I think it was like my 9th birthday, I got my birthday money, and I was basically just like going through the shops trying to figure out what I should spend my birthday money on. And I noticed a few ads for the new Rudebox album, and I noticed it on one of the shelves, so I kind of just like quickly grabbed it and was excited to go home and listen to it. And I probably shouldn't have listened to this album at that age, because it does have a bit of language, a bit of crude aspects, but it never really did me any harm. But I always liked this album ever since I first listened to it, and I find it to be one of Robbie's most overlooked albums. It's pretty underrated, because there is some pretty good stuff on here, which I will get into. So most of Robbie Williams' albums before Rudebox were definitely rock orientated, electric guitar, things like that. This was his first album that really experimented with electronic music technology, and the opening track Rudebox clearly demonstrates that. It's a very techno sounding song, a lot of thumping beats, techno synths, a very funky song. It's kind of like a mix between a rap song and a funk hit. It's a really catchy song, and I also find it pretty funny. The lyric work is really good. I mean, there's a part where he says, "If you Rudebox me, I Rudebox your whole crew, 'cause it's what I do, ain't that right, boo, true?" And it's full of stuff like that, and it is such a catchy earworm song, and it's definitely a banger, and a great opener that kind of sets the stage for what the rest of this album will sound like. The next song, Viva Life on Mars, is a mashup between a country song with electronic elements added into it. It has like harmonica, some guitar, country guitar, but it's got a lot of electronic elements to it too. And it's also another really catchy song with some good lyric and voice work by Robbie Williams. It's overall another memorable song. Then we get into Love Light, which is, I think Love Light was the hit of this album. It was definitely, it's kind of like a sexy romance song with a lot of bass in it, and also has some electronic elements in it too, but it's kind of it's a more minimalistic song, kind of focusing on Robbie's higher voice capabilities. He kind of sings in a more high-pitched way, and as I said, a lot of bass, a lot of atmosphere in this song. It's also another very catchy and memorable song. The next song has a very weird name. It's called Bongo Bong and Junatan Plus. I like to call it the King of Bongo Bong, because that's what it's about. It's a pretty silly song, to be honest. It is silly, but it's also catchy as well. It's kind of just like a rap about Robbie Williams is really good on the bongos, and it kind of has this almost like this sort of African, tropical, Jamaican vibe to it as well. And strangely enough, it kind of evolves into like this there's this French girl who's constantly singing at the end, Je ne t'aime plus mon amour, Je ne t'aime plus tes jours, and then Robbie kind of goes in with it as well. It's kind of, it's strange, it's a strange and unconventional song, but it's pretty unpredictable. It's kind of a more experimental song, but I like it. I've always liked it. I think it's a good song, and kind of another way of kind of Robbie Williams kind of branching out into territory that he probably hasn't touched upon before the release of this album. And then coming up next is She's Madonna, which is a very slow-paced, very soothing ballad about Robbie Williams wanting to be with Madonna and fantasizing about Madonna. Kind of strange, but it is it definitely this song really leads into the electronic synths and kind of has a bit of an 80s vibe to it. As I said, not a fast-paced song. It's a very relaxing, calmer, slower-paced and sort of serenading song. I always liked it. I thought it was a pretty neat track, which then segues into our next song, Keep On, which is a much more fast-paced, chaotic, up-and-down song. It starts off with like Robbie Williams just singing Hotel, Motel, Holiday Inn, very random. Then it goes into this really chaotic lyric work with a lot of beat drums, which sound a bit like block rocking beats, and goes into a chorus which kind of calms down again, and then it gets thrown back into the kind of the chaotic beat. I also like this song. It's probably one of the weaker tracks on this album, but by no means a bad album or something that's not enjoyable to listen to. Another experimental song, which this album has quite a lot of them. The 7th song on this album is another spoken word rap song called Good Doctor, and it's just basically a funny song about Robbie Williams's, I guess, his struggle against the healthcare system, him being put on all these pills and drugs. It's kind of deep down. It's kind of a sad song, really, of how dependent we are as a society on taking drugs and pills to like try and help our medical issues. It's a weird song. I still would say it's one of the weaker tracks on this album. But yeah, it's just kind of a statement of just how he hates going to the doctor and taking all these weird pills with all these strange names on them. That's basically what the song is about. The 8th song is actually one of my favourite songs on the album. It's called The Actor, and it's sort of like another statement song about Robbie Williams sort of criticising the acting industry and like being jealous over this woman actor. The woman voice isn't named, so I don't know who she is, but it's really catchy. Has a really good beat, has a lot of good voice work by Robbie, and there's this part like towards like the second, third, and towards the end of the song where like this female voice and Robbie Williams kind of like intertwine in like this little duet where they repeat names of actors, and I always like that part of the song. It has a really good build up, and I thought it was a really neat touch to this track. I thought it was pretty unique. As I said, it is still kind of cheesy looking back at it. Another statement song, but it's catchy and it's a good song and it's fun to listen to, so that's why I like it so much. The next song is Never Touch That Switch. This is a pretty abstract one. It's pretty unclear what the song really is about. It's basically like Robbie Williams singing about like this strange time machine that we don't know how it works, and don't touch that button or it's gonna, I don't know, like ruin the fabric of space-time continuum as we know it. I never really was a big fan of this song. I found it just to be a bit here and there. I mean, there are good aspects to it, but it's just weird and a bit weak. So I usually sometimes just skip this song, really. But the next song, the song that comes after this song, might actually be my favourite song on the entire album, and that's Louise. It's this really, once again, this really calming and really reflective, also kind of melancholic track about one of Robbie's former lovers, and kind of just remembering their lives when they were in love. Has some really nice instrument work in here. Also some really nice synth work as well. Some really, what I like to call maybe some bubbly synth. It kind of feels like it's like you're like touching water, and it just kind of like refracts across the soundscape of the song. It's a really nice piece, and ties with a couple of other songs on this album later on that as my personal favourite. The next song is also one of my favourites too, but it's not my absolute favourite because this isn't actually an original song. It is it's a cover of a Pet Shop Boys song called "We're the Pet Shop Boys." Now it's not really that different compared to the original song. I've listened to it. This version though does have a bit of a more melancholic sound. That's a word that I really like to attach to this album. This whole thing sounds pretty melancholy. It's not as vibrant and as upbeat as Robbie's previous albums, and it kind of has like this, almost like this hanging sense of gloom over the song. And Robbie's voice is really echoey and really reverbery in this track, but the chorus is really good. I mean, when like the beat comes in and you hear like that echoed clap sound, that's great. I love that part of the song. But as I said, it's a cover. It's a really good cover. I might even say that this might be as blasphemy from some Pet Shop Boys fans, but I do think this is slightly superior to the original. I haven't listened to much of the Pet Shop Boys, so I guess I wouldn't know. I don't really know many fans of them out there, but who knows. Now, Burslem Normals is probably my least favourite song on the entire album. This one is very melancholic. It's like really... I know what it's trying to go for. It's really trying to encapsulate like the boring and the mundane and like broken dreams of falling back to reality and having to face I guess the bores of reality, which is what the song's about. Maybe not, because I remember him saying goodbye to the normals. So maybe he's the meaning of the song is to completely give up reality and go insane. Maybe. As I said, it's still a bit unclear what the song's about. It's a bit murky, bit abstract. Maybe it is about letting go of reality and living in your own world, but who knows? That's just what I think of this song anyway. So the thing about this album, as I said, melancholy. The 2000s music was saturated with it. There was so much. The 2000s musicscape as a whole has this very melancholy feeling to it. It doesn't have really the same energy and uplifting vibe that a lot of 90s tracks has. I'm not saying that all 2000 songs are like this. There are exceptions, but most of them, I would say about maybe 65% of them have this feel to it. I mean, Gorillaz, another band, really encapsulated this with Demon Days, which is another very melancholic sounding album. The original Gorillaz album wasn't as melancholic, and since Demon Days, it's kind of followed that trend all the way up to Humans, which only released about 5 years ago. And it's just a trend that I think when I was growing up in the 2000s, I was really getting sick of. I was sick of hearing all this melancholic stuff played through the radio. I really much preferred all the stuff before that. But over time I did grow a liking to it. I did have an attachment for it, and I did see a reason why it was there. It was kind of like showing a different angle of life and a different perspective through music. So yeah, there's that. Though after talking about all of that, the next song, Kiss Me, is definitely the most energetic, bright, sparky, uplifting song of the entire album. It's full of energy, it's full of, it feels very upbeat and electric, and I think basically what the song is all about is basically just about kissing, the joy of kissing. He says, "Kiss me with your mouth, your love is better than wine," stuff like that. So it's a very, very upbeat song. Definitely very different compared to most of the other tracks on this album and the tone they set. So it's kind of the black sheep of the album, bit of an oddball, but it's there and it's still a pretty nice song. Now we get to probably, despite what I said about some other songs, this probably is my favourite part of the entire album. The two songs, the 80s and the 90s, they are both, well, not all of it, they're spoken word songs, though they do have some singing in them. And it's basically the life story of Robbie Williams during the 80s and the 90s. The 80s, it's basically just an account of what happened to Robbie Williams in the 80s, certain memories that he thinks of, kind of like his adolescence, more simpler, innocent times, I guess. And like the theme of the song is like, things were better when they start. That's how the 80s broke my heart. Not really sure what that means. I think that just means like just looking back, that some people think that their youth is the best time of their life and it all goes downhill from there, which is a really grim outlook. I don't really believe that. But I think that's what this song was about, and it ends with so young, so long, and it echoes with that, and that's kind of what the song leads you with. Then it leads on to the 90s, which is a lot more the story of Robbie's history with Take That from 1990 to 95, him graduating from school, him not doing well at school. Him also saying that his life in the early 90s was pretty shit. He didn't really have the best upbringing, and then 5 years into being in Take That, he just couldn't take being in the band no more. So he packed his bags and walked away, which then leads into his solo career, which is what he's most famous for, starting with Life Through a Lens in '97. I do really like this song. I really like the guitar work in this song. I like the feeling of it. I really love it's just a really good sounding song with kind of like the right mix of melancholy, which is the main theme that kind of goes throughout this album. But it also kind of has this mix of this uplifting feel to it as well. It's a really beautiful and nice sounding song. I always love listening to it. It never gets played enough. I've never heard it be played on the radio ever. I think it's very underrated. It's a really good song. Then it ends with Summertime. I always skip this song. I never find it to be really that memorable. It's just a pretty generic song about the summer. Kind of like a summer day song where you just chill and vibe out to it. It's a nice closer. But that's not really the actual closer of this track. The real closer is a bonus track that plays 2 minutes after Summertime ends, and that's called Dickhead. It's a funny song. It's basically just a crude rap of how Robbie Williams thinks everyone's a dickhead, thinks that everyone's an idiot. Basically says kind of like his middle finger to everyone, and I always kind of thought it was funny. There's this part of the song where it has like this plucking of violins. It says, "Do not want kids, don't want dickheads to be made dickhead." Then it goes, bloop, 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 bloop. I always found that funny. I brought up this part of the song with my dad once, and we kind of have this running joke. So whenever we always see something awkward happening, we always repeat that sound, and it's kind of this joke that we developed, and that's definitely what I remember most about this song. Just using that sound bite in awkward situations. It is pretty crude though. It's definitely not for kids. I think this whole album is probably not so kid friendly. There are some sexual references in it, though, and a couple of F-bombs. But it's not really until this final song that it really realised that this is a pretty crude album. I mean, Rudebox had a few F-bombs in it. Probably a couple more sprinkled throughout the album that I don't remember. But this one is definitely the most crude. Though, if a lot of kids listen to this on CD back in the day, they probably switched it off before they've discovered this track. But now on Spotify and on iTunes, it's you can listen to it, you can just scroll through it, and you can see the song. So it kind of ruins the surprise. So that's my review of Robbie Williams' Rudebox. It's definitely an album that I know about a lot because I've listened to it so many times now. And who knows, it might be sad to say it is one of my formative childhood listening experiences, or like just listen to music that I listened to as like a kid. I listened to a lot, but I just really never hear people talk about this album very much, and it's always very overlooked, glossed over, said that it's not one of Robbie's best works. But I think there is some real good stuff on here. It's not perfect, there are some weaker tracks, but overall it has a nice sound, a nice atmosphere. It's definitely pretty nostalgic for me, so that might be a bias from me. But all around, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really solid album, and definitely worth listening to. So who knows, maybe this review will put it on your radar, and you'll listen to it for yourself and see what you think about it. It might even get you interested in more Robbie Williams stuff, because I haven't really listened to much Robbie Williams other albums. I never owned any of his other ones, and now that I have Spotify, it gives me the chance to listen to his entire discography. So who knows, I might listen to a few more of his albums. I do know most of his hits though, but there are definitely a lot of tracks that I still don't know about. So anyway, that's my opinion of Rudebox. What's your opinion on it? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and as always, take care.